The village of Ashenwood lay nestled in a valley cloaked in perpetual mist, its existence an anomaly to the outside world. Most who stumbled upon it, if they ever did, found it enchanting. With its cobblestone streets, quaint cottages, and a serene river winding through the center. But for those who stayed long enough, the enchantment wore thin, replaced by an oppressive sense of something hidden, something watching. Ethan Markham felt it immediately. A seasoned traveler and amateur historian, he had wandered into Ashenwood by chance, or so he thought. The locals greeted him politely enough, yet their eyes betrayed unease, their glances fleeting and suspicious. It wasn't long before he began noticing them. A group of men who seemed to haunt the village like shadows, their presence both pervasive and elusive. They called themselves the Brotherhood, though the villagers only spoke the name in hushed tones. Tall and gaunt, the men moved with an unnatural grace, their faces pale and emotionless. They wore dark, plain clothing, blending into the mist as if they were part of it. What struck Ethan most was their silence. They communicated with subtle gestures and fleeting glances, their voices rarely heard. Ethan's curiosity, once sparked, became relentless. He observed the Brotherhood from a distance, noting their strange rituals, a procession at dusk, their figures outlined against the setting sun. Midnight gatherings in the woods, where faint whispers carried on the wind. The villagers offered no explanations, only warnings. "Stay clear of them," advised an elderly cobbler. "They keep us safe. But they are not like us. Never have been." "Safe from what?" Ethan asked. The cobbler shook his head. "From what lies beyond. From what seeks to break through." The answer only deepened Ethan's intrigue. What could the Brotherhood possibly be guarding against? One evening, as the mist thickened and the village settled into an uneasy quiet, Ethan decided to follow them. Armed with nothing but his notebook and a lantern, he shadowed the men as they slipped silently into the forest. Their path wound deeper than he had ever ventured, the trees growing denser, their twisted branches forming a canopy that blocked the moonlight. They reached a clearing where an ancient stone circle stood, its weathered monoliths etched with symbols that seemed to shimmer in the lantern's glow. The Brotherhood formed a circle around the stones, their faces illuminated by an otherworldly light emanating from within. Ethan hid behind a tree, his breath shallow, his heart pounding. The leader of the Brotherhood stepped forward, holding an object wrapped in black cloth. As he unwrapped it, Ethan's lantern flickered violently, as though the air itself recoiled from what was revealed. The object was a shard of obsidian, its surface rippling like liquid. It pulsed faintly, as if alive. The men began to chant in a language Ethan didn't recognize, low, guttural tones that seemed to vibrate through the ground. The obsidian shard grew brighter, and the air around the stones shimmered like a mirage. Then came the whispers, faint at first, growing louder, until they filled the clearing. They were not human. Ethan's mind reeled. The whispers spoke of hunger, of a world beyond their own, of an ancient barrier that must not fall. He clutched his notebook, trying to steady himself as the leader of the Brotherhood raised the shard high. The chanting grew frenzied, and the whispers turned to screams. Then, with a final cry, the shard's glow subsided, and the clearing fell silent. The men lowered their heads, their faces unreadable, before retreating into the forest. Ethan remained frozen until long after they had gone. When he finally stumbled back to the village, he confronted the cobbler. "What is the shard? What are they guarding?" The old man sighed, his eyes heavy with a sorrow Ethan couldn't understand. Long ago, before the first stone of Ashenwood was laid, there was a breach, a tear in the fabric between our world and another. The Brotherhood was formed to seal it. They carry fragments of that breach, bound to guard it for eternity. Why hasn't anyone stopped them? Why not destroy the shards? Because they cannot be destroyed, the cobbler replied. The shards are pieces of the veil that keeps the two worlds apart. Without them, the breach would open again, and what lies beyond would consume us all. Ethan's curiosity turned to dread. The Brotherhood's purpose was clear, but their methods remained shrouded in mystery. What price did they pay to keep the breach closed? What power had they harnessed, and at what cost? In the days that followed, Ethan noticed changes in himself. The whispers from the clearing lingered in his mind, haunting his dreams. He felt the weight of the Brotherhood's gaze more acutely, as though they knew he had seen too much. One night, he awoke to find one of them standing at the foot of his bed. The man's pale face was expressionless, but his eyes held a warning. "Leave," he said, his voice a low rasp that sent chills down Ethan's spine. "You do not belong here." But Ethan couldn't leave, not without answers. Driven by a compulsion he didn't fully understand, he ventured back to the stone circle alone. The mist was thicker than ever, the forest eerily silent. When he reached the clearing, the obsidian shard lay in the center, unguarded. It pulsed faintly, as if beckoning him. Against his better judgment, Ethan reached out and touched it. The world dissolved around him. He found himself standing on the edge of an abyss, staring into a void filled with writhing shadows and countless eyes. The whispers became deafening, their words clear now. "Break the seal. Free us." Ethan pulled his hand away, gasping, and found himself back in the clearing. The Brotherhood stood before him, their faces grim. "You've seen it," the leader said. Ethan nodded, his voice trembling. "What are they?" "Ancient," the man replied. "Hungry. And endless." "What happens if the seal breaks?" The leader's gaze hardened. "Pray you never find out." From that moment on, Ethan knew he couldn't leave Ashenwood. The Brotherhood's burden had become his own, and the whispers from beyond the veil would haunt him forever.